done well, but unlike other really good. We want to be leveled for a map at the end of Act 2, and you won't get attacked on a map in Act 3, and otherwise turn her into a swap bot. Bowie is also not a very important combat unit. He will kill one specific enemy in Act 2 and otherwise focus on becoming a swap bot. Jenny is just a warm body for trading items around. Her healing is almost never make or break when we have rigging, and she won't make it to Physic to heal our frontliners. May is the most relevant unit in our starting squad. She'll be our primary combat carry in Act 2 and will be responsible for killing a boss late in Act 4. She's chosen because of her better offensive stats and spells, letting her hit the Act 4 benchmark with less EXP. We also finally start collecting cards, which increase the number of uses of Miller's turn wheel. The priority has linked attack and speed wells, and since attack is May's bottleneck for the Act 4 kill, we give her all 3 attack wells. The Graveyard Skirmish is Celica's first fight. To get the 3 turn of this map, we need our combat carry May to take the best starting spot and use her full move every turn so she can get in range of the enemies that start furthest from us on turn 3. We hack the enemy's accuracies down since May's EXP is best optimized when she does not spend any player phase actions on healing herself. Celica will deal with the 2 enemies who won't suicide into May. We actually start with fire set to not crit because we want to farm chip EXP with May. The enemies initially prioritize May over Bowie due to her worse bulk, which is convenient for us, it helps with positioning. Celica wants to get 1 crit on that Revenant for her optimal EXP gain, though we can certainly do without it. Jenny's recover use seems excessive, but the extra HP on May is necessary given she is damaging herself just to attack. Bowie moves there to protect Jenny from the Revenant that May just chipped down. We need these 2 full HP Revenants that attack May to attack her from above and below, so that May's path to the left for the next turn is kept clear. This is the primary use for the turn wheels on this map. Strangely, the low HP Revenant down south prefers to attack Celica over Jenny, and this isn't because of Nosferatu being hacked to have higher stats or anything. I'm pretty sure Nosferatu right now is at its vanilla base stats. Since we need to clean up the map on this turn, we now suspend to set fire to always crit, so May can eliminate all the remaining Revenants while also conserving her HP to actually cast all the spells needed. And that completes the map in 3 turns. In case you were wondering, the chip EXP on May really did matter. Without it, she would have ended the map at 1.99. Once we leave the cemetery, it will always spawn another Revenant, as it is intended to be Celica's grinding spot for the duration of Act 2. We go into Nova's Greatport to pick up a lot of items and recruit Saber. Saber is a mercenary and will be trained up as another swap bot. With hacked crit, he can start killing things right away, which is good because Act 2 goes by pretty quickly. We want to promote him for the final map of Act 2 for 5 move, though in hindsight that may be avoidable. Being our only 5 move swap bot is surprisingly not going to matter too much. One nice thing about the Golden Dagger is that it is a sword that only player units can use, so it can have crit hacked onto it without affecting enemy weapons. Celica's Act 2 is where there is the most significant deviation in a DLC run. The play there is to use a pitchfork on May to reclass her into a Pegasus Knight, and to use one on Saber to reclass him into an Archer. Having a flyer in Act 2 trivializes a lot of the upcoming boat maps, saving a number of turns, while Archer Saber saves a turn in the final map of Act 2. Because Act Two's boat chapter names are extremely generic, the SOV efficiency and LTC community have a bunch of fan-kind names to help distinguish them in discussion. The first map is Brigand Boat since the enemies solely consist of brigands. At this point, May is still our primary EXP target, so she will take the lead to clear out the way. She deliberately missed that Brigand for chip EXP, and even though he'll retreat, she will pick him off next turn. Right now, Thunder is configured to have subpar hit, and both Fire and the Golden Dagger are set to always hit and crit. In turn 2, Celica clears the way since she's the only one between her, Bowie, and Jenny who cares about EXP at all. Saber will handle the left brigands while clearing the way for May to snipe the retreating brigand. Whenever I remember to, I tried building up supports between characters, but I don't think any of the supports I get in this playthrough ever actually matter. On enemy phase, we simply crit all of the remaining enemies, and that will be Brigand Boat in 2 turns. Next up is the Leather Shield map, named for a Leather Shield mercenary we need to kill. Saber and May will carry the brunt of the combat on this map. Thunder, Fire, and the Golden Dagger are all set to always crit at the start of the map. The Leather Shield mercenary is quite nasty. He doubles our Saber. Saber takes the boss kill with a double crit, and he gets his first level up. We want the mercenary to attack Saber from above so that Bowie can stand to the right of Saber and snipe him and end up safely out of the enemy range. Though I think if I had swapped Bowie and Jenny's positions and shuffled their movements around, I could have avoided this bit of RNG dependence. Bowie takes out the Leather Shield Merc with a fire crit, and he had a bread at the start of the map so that he could convoy warp it. This lets Celica pull it out of the convoy and start working on her Swap EXP. The only enemy left on the map who wouldn't suicide into our units on enemy phase is the archer, and May picks him off. May unfortunately can't use the leather shield for logistical reasons since we want it to end up on Saber for this enemy phase, but it's alright. May will have a few more opportunities to face the combat necessary. We suspend to set the default sword up to perfect crit now that the mercenary is dead, because we want Saber to take the leather shield and start using it on enemy phase. The enemies simply die to all of our units, completing the map in 2 turns. Celica has 1 point of swap EXP, while Saber has 3. I did look into the possibility of training Jenny up as a swap bot since Celica actually does have the map at the end of Act 2 to hit swap if she wanted to, but I couldn't make swap Jenny work. And as a matter of fact, an extra swap bot doesn't really matter. We head back to Nova's Greatbook to pick up an item we missed before we go to our next map, Pirate Throne. This is a kill boss map with the best starting square 2 shot of getting within 3 range of the boss to snipe him with a thunder crit in 2 turns. This sets the turn floor to 3 turns since there's no practical way for us to have 2 swap bots by this point, let alone actually getting them to swap May 2 consecutive squares given the structure of the board preventing us from trading stuff around properly. May will start off with the leather shield since the main event on this map is just optimizing our EXP and swap EXP, which will require some turn wheel abuse. The position May move to lets her face 4 enemies on turn 1, which gets her most of the way to swap already. Fire, Thunder, and the default sword are all set to always crit. The top of 3 brigands left in the top left part of the screen randomly choose whether they want to go towards the NPCs or towards our units. And for the sake of EXP optimization, we're going to have to rig them to move towards us, which would require some heavy duty turn wheel abuse. It took me several attempts to actually get this to work. And now we got the first of those brigands to move towards us, so we only need to turn wheel for the other 2. And thankfully, we got it to line up, so I didn't have to burn more turn wheels. Celica takes the leather shield since May will be able to hit swap on a later map, and instead we want our other swap bots to continue working. Well, not to continue working on getting to swap. After this, we're gonna suspend to set fire to no longer crit, since we don't want Bowie to kill the enemy who's going to go for him on this enemy phase. And Celica has the golden dagger equipped because we also want Celica to not kill the enemy that she's going to face. Saber doesn't take the leather shield because he is going to get a chance to get the that point of swap EXP that he would have gotten if he took it on this enemy phase, whereas it's much harder for Bowie to get rounds of combat with it since he's not really an EXP target. Since Bowie and Celica don't kill their respective opponents, we get to feed a kill to May. The green units will join us after this map. I'll go over them when they do. At the end of this map, May and Saber are both at 4 out of 5 points of swap EXP, while Bowie and Celica are both at 3 out of 5. May will pick off Barth to complete the map in 3 turns. We now raid the pirates' base to pick up all their treasure lying around. The commentary in Act 2 has been a little stilted, but that's because these maps are really straightforward to route when you no longer have to worry about rigging. We get 3 new units. Valbar and Kamui are warm bodies, but Leon is a long-term unit on Celica's route as our first and only practical bow user. Celica's maps don't crumble quite as hard to archers as Alm's do, because they tend to have a lot of terrain, but there are still several players we need Leon to be good for. He brings us an iron bow, giving him immediate access to 4 range. We want him to promote by the end of Act 2, but that will be easy to pull off. We actually will train Leon to learn swap for a couple of clears later on, though that will be handled in Act 3. We get our next card and a rusted shield, which we can eventually forge into an iron shield. However, we unlock access to forging just a little too late to make proper use of this shield, so Celica will nick the one in Zofia Castle to train May into our primary shove bot. Back to the boat maps. This is Cantor boat, named so because the map starts with just one Cantor. Despite being a route, it is effectively a kill boss since killing a Cantor also eliminates all of their summons from the map. Leon actually can't one round him since he doesn't double, meaning May has to kill him from 3 range. This map is mostly just an excuse to pick up Swap EXP on a lot of our units. One nice thing about Leon having 4 range is that the way the boat maps in Act 2 are laid out, he can snipe enemies on the opposite boat. Because the Cantor spawned a Revenant 1 down and 1 left of him, May can actually get a round of combat on enemy phase. All of our weapons are obviously set to crit. On turn 3, Saber and May learn swap while Celica and Bowie end at 4 out of 5 points. Boy is so weak. He doesn't even double these Revenants, and he doesn't one-shot them with a crit. May's boss kill concludes the map in 3 turns. Time for Merc Boat, named for the significant number of enemy mercenaries on this map. This map is going to be the Saber Show, since we want him to hit level 7, as the next map is not conducive to training him. Saber takes a crit Iron Sword to clean up all the enemies who will go for him on this map. We need a swap to get Saber to the destination that we want to place him on so that he can clean up the maximal number of enemies. And May can handle that, courtesy of hitting swap on the previous map. The reason Saber is using the Iron Sword as opposed to, say, the Steel Sword is so that he can double and double crit the boss to kill him. The Steel Sword doesn't quite do enough damage, but the side effect is that since there are some enemy mercenaries who have Iron Swords, Saber is going to get crit a couple of times on this map. Leon is just gonna handle that one archer on this map. You might be concerned seeing how lazy I'm being with Leon's EXP gain, but don't worry. The next map is gonna be the Leon show, and he is going to overshoot his promotion level on the next map. Celica and Bowie learn swap on turn 2 while clearing Saber's way. We suspend to set fire to not crit so Bowie doesn't unnecessarily steal a kill from Saber. The enemies will die to Saber's crit to complete the map in 2 turns. Saber will end the map at level 7, and as you saw, like both Celica and Bowie learn swap. Arcboat, named for all the enemy Arcanists, is the final map for most of our units in Act 2. We will cut enemy dark magic users' accuracy down for pretty much the rest of the run, since our units tend to not have great resistance and will get mauled by them. Leon's bow gives him the range to counter every enemy on the map, and he can solo it. We only divert a couple of kills, including that of the boss, to May because Leon overshoots promotion. May needs a swap to pick off the boss and face one of the enemy arcanists. There's not much to say, it's a very simple one turn. We finally land in Zofia Harbor, free of the boats at last. We go around to pick up items, activate a quest to collect coral fragments, and notice Pala and Katria in town, though they don't sign up quite yet. You'll notice we didn't go to the Seabound Shrine. That's because we want to give EXP on that map to Pala, who doesn't join until Act 3. Instead, we'll handle our end of Act promotions in the Deliverance HQ. That is the first of the 5 coral fragments we need to collect. The rest of them we're gonna have to grind in Seabound Shrine for. When I think LTCs and optimal strategies for LTCs, the very first thing I assure you that comes to my mind is sitting around and cutting a whole bunch of grass and coral. That like, how on earth could that not be the peak of Fire Emblem strategy? You could probably divert one more kill away from Leon than I do, since he overshoots level 7 by such a large margin. But I don't really have ideas for when would be the right time to do that. Celica will also go to Ram Village to pick up the Fruit of Life from the quest to kill 20 brigands in Thieves' Shrine. This was part of my attempt to save a turn in a certain map, which did work out. Though after I finished the run, USS Garden Captain and I did figure out an alternative way to save that turn, which I'll talk about when the time comes. Zofia Gate is the real final map of Act 2, though we only get Celica and Saber for it. Saber needs 5 move to get to the boss in 3 turns, while Celica will route the rest of the map with hacked crits. I hacked Conrad's lance to be inaccurate to maximize the EXP I could feed to Celica. It should be possible to 3-turn the map without promoted Saber by having Celica kill the boss and having her kill the top left Arcanist across the river. But it's not like the Celica is gonna make good use of the EXP long term anyway. Because Celica sees so much combat on this map, we could just train her to learn Swap here, but there's no real reason to, since it's not like we could have gotten Jenny to learn Swap by taking Celica's place earlier. We suspended to set fire to not crit this Arcanist just to squeeze out a little extra EXP. We're gonna suspend immediately afterwards to hack the crit back onto it. Celica learns Seraphim, which is mostly useful to let her have an alternate spell to chip some enemies without needing to hack fire back and forth. Saber will 2-round the boss to complete the map in 3 turns. We left Zofia Castle untouched so Celica could have the pick of the loot. We want her to pick up the blue cheese, the steel lance, and the iron shield. Celica will trade the blue cheese to the cheese lover to get the medicinal syrup for a later quest on her route. She trades in the holy cheese, mostly just because she can. Alm picked up a holy cheese in Thief Shrine, and we could have had him handle this particular step. The steel lance is needed on Celica's route because we need to forge it to a silver lance to let Pala actually kill things with hacked crits in Act 3, while the iron shield will let us teach May shove in Act 3 before we get access to forging. That concludes Act 2 in 20 turns, 6 turns slower than the DLC run.